Today we'll go through how to run cold outreach going into 2026 and beyond. Just a few years ago, businesses could just get a lead list, send some cold emails, cold call some of these guys, and land a ton of clients. But times have changed. Emails are now being thrown into the spam folder, they're getting removed or flagged left and right, and cold callers are simply just getting ignored. More and more people have EAs taking over their email inbox. And I don't know about you, but I have silence unknown callers on my phone, so no one can really cold call me. However, there are still tons of business owners that are still making hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, through cold outreach. And it's because they know the new way of doing cold outreach. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how cold outreach has changed, what the new way is, and how you can book hundreds of sales calls a month with it. And make sure you stick around until the end because I'll show you how to automate the whole thing. All right, so back in the day, businesses had a very tried and true method of collecting cash through cold outbound. Businesses would essentially just purchase lists of people's phone numbers and just dial away without too much context on who it was that they were dialing, and that was working. And for emails, companies were sending mass emails using templates that are now super outdated, but somehow worked back in the day because not a ton of people were sending emails. But obviously, these methods just simply don't work anymore, mainly because of these issues. Number one, people are more aware of outbound as a whole as a way of acquiring new users, and so they're way more selective on the emails that they reply to and the phone calls that they actually answer. Number two, there's been an increase in spam filters whenever you're doing email, and platforms have gotten way stricter when it comes to what you can and cannot send. This obviously results in a lot of these emails just going to spam, and so no one ever really ends up looking at them. Number three, generic impersonal messages have flooded the market, meaning people have learned that these emails are just spam, and so reply rates have just dropped across the board. That doesn't mean it's impossible to sign clients using cold outreach, because smart business owners have realized that there's a new and better way of doing this. So let's go back to the old way that we used to have. People are now really selective with their emails because most of the stuff that they're getting, they know is automated spam, and they just don't want to be treated like another lead on someone's list. Not only that, but spam filters have gotten way stricter, making it way harder for your emails to actually be delivered to the main inbox. And not only that, but if you're sending the same template over and over again, you essentially just look like a spammy bot and nothing's ever going to work. And all these problems boil down to one main thing. It's bad or lack of personalization. With good personalization, you wouldn't be sending out templated messages that people don't resonate with. But it's not just personalization that matters when it comes to cold outreach. Because another big problem that's come about with cold outreach and cold calls is that they basically become red flags for leads. Whenever they get an email from someone they don't know or a call from an unknown number, they're simply not going to reply or they're not going to pick up the phone. Which brings us to the best method to do cold outreach with. And that's going to be cold social DMs. But not just any sort of DMs. I'm talking specifically Twitter DMs. Twitter DMs have outperformed every other outreach channel for me. And trust me, I've been doing this for a while, so I literally tested everything. Twitter has simply outperformed every single one of these other methods. And with Twitter, it's honestly super easy to whip up a couple accounts. And if you go to Twitter Terms of Service, they allow you to send up to 500 messages per day per account. So just think of the sheer volume that you can be sending out with just a couple accounts. Plus, the only people that can send DMs on Twitter are people that are verified. So you can forget all the spammers because they're simply not playing the Twitter game because they don't want to spend the extra money to verify all their accounts. And so it just makes it way more likely for people to actually read your messages because there's not a ton of competition. Plus, you get the benefit of instant credibility. But what does this mean? Essentially, whenever anyone gets a message from you, the first thing most people do if you have a good message is look at your profile. And if your profile is well optimized and you're followed by some other big names in the space and you have a bunch of content on there and you just look like an authority, you will instantly build credibility with whoever it is that you're reaching out to. And so that makes it way more likely for them to actually reply because you are looked at as an authority. Something Alex Hormozi always mentions whenever he's talking about outreach as a whole or how to make it work for you is that there's two main things for the perfect combination when it comes to cold outreach. And that combination is max volume and max personalization. And so the new way of outreach is doing outreach on a platform where there's not a ton of competition or where the competition really sucks, and sending a ton of volume and having these messages all be very highly personalized with relevant personalization. And here's the best way that you can improve your personalization. And so if you're doing this manually, these are the types of personalizations that you want to figure out how to add into your messages because these are highly relevant And there's no one doing it like this, especially on Twitter. So if you do this, you'll be ahead of 99% of the competition. So for example, I really like this one. Hey, notice you're using Tech for Brand, so you can just look up, there's a bunch of different tools that you can use to look up what technology they're using. This is really good if you are competing with another tech product. Their case studies. So you just go into their website and you let them know like, hey, I noticed you work with XYZ client. So I thought it made sense to reach out. Achievements, hey, congrats on another round or whatever it might be. Or there we go, that's another one. Competitors, hey, notice you compete with competitor. Hey, saw your post about topic on Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, saw your post about topic from last week, et cetera. Congrats on launching product or service. And then these down here are actually my favorites. Hey, so this one is actually one of the best ones that I've seen. And whenever I get something similar to this, I'm like, damn, okay, that's a good one. So it's essentially just saying, hey, notice your competitor XYZ, and then you name drop the competitor, achieved XYZ, and thought you might want to discuss how you could do the same, right? So if their competitor just did something or is doing something that's working really well for them, it's like, hey, I saw that these guys are doing this. I can actually help you beat them or whatever it may be, right? So there's going to be a link down below in the description to get access to this personalization sheet. And again, these are just easy ways to personalize your scripts if you're doing everything manually. Now, like I said, you could just spend all day doing this manually and that's perfectly fine, but there's actually a couple ways to do this so that it's not you spending their whole day doing this because you're a business owner and you have some higher leverage stuff to do. But if you don't want to spend all day doing this, then here's another 2 ways that you can go about this. Number 1 is you can leverage other people, meaning you can hire people to do this for you. Or number 2 is you can leverage code, meaning software. So first we're going to talk about how you can hire someone to do this for you. Essentially, we just need to train them, give them clear instructions on what it is that we want them to do. Then we have to either instruct them on how to find a lead list, or we just give them a lead list, we give them a script template, and then you essentially just make sure that they're doing the right thing and that they're sending the amount of volume that you want them to be sending out on a daily basis. And so if we just go back to our personalization sheet, you would just give them something like this, plus your scripts, and then you would just have them put something together. So for example, you would instruct them to look at someone's Twitter profile, look at someone's LinkedIn profile, maybe go through their website, maybe look them up on YouTube and see if they have any interviews, and then to find the best personalization based on what they can find about them online, right? So if they see that there is a news article talking about their most recent fundraiser, or not fundraiser, but funding round, you can let them like, hey, congrats on your recent XYZ round. Or if you just saw them on a very popular podcast, you can let them know like, hey, congrats on your appearance on XYZ podcast, or hey, I just saw you on XYZ podcast, so thought I'd reach out, et cetera, et cetera. So that's essentially what you need to do if you want to hire someone. You just need to give them the right instructions for them to be able to do this and take this off your plate. And this will work really well if you have someone working for you full time. However, it will get expensive though. And so how would I go about this? There's honestly a ton of different ways. If you just go to Google and look up onlinejobs.ph, this will give you a very, very good pool of talent from the Philippines. So it's a job board for virtual workers in the Philippines. You can look for talent, or if you're looking for work, I guess you can do that too if you're Filipino. There's also obviously always Fiverr.com. There's always Upwork that you can look into as well. And if you have a little bit more cash, there's always a bunch of agencies that will actually take care of the whole hiring process for you. And that makes life way easier. It is a little bit more expensive though, so just keep that in mind. But if you are a busy business owner, then that's honestly what I'd recommend the most, just as long as the agency that you're going with is actually good and vetted. Keywords to look out for are going to be either VA or appointment setter, just depending on how skilled or how experienced you want the people that you're hiring to be. Typically, if someone is a VA, they won't be like super lead generation focused, but they will maybe have some sort of experience, or they definitely will have the ability to take instructions and then just implement whatever you gave them. And so it kind of just depends, but I do recommend that you go for someone that has experience and ideally someone that has worked at a similar company to you, or at least has sold something similar to whatever it is that you're selling. And that will typically just make your life way easier. And not only that, but I know there's a bunch of business owners that maybe just don't have the budget right now to hire someone full time. So there is another way of doing it. You can just use other tools. You can use tools like Apollo to find leads and then scrape information there and then mention that information in your Twitter DMs manually. Or you can look these people up on LinkedIn and then essentially just do the same thing. So you're going to compile information manually from these other sources and then manually put those together with the personalization. Okay. So for example, let's say you are reaching out to a SaaS founder that just raised money. So for example, let's say we are reaching out to other SaaS founders. And let's say in this example, we just want to reach out to Harris Kenny from Outbound Sync. So I would just look through everything that he has going on here. I would look at the fact that he's a certified HeyReach partner, Instantly, Email Bison, Smart Lead, that he started Outbound Sync two years ago. And then I would also look him up on YouTube. So I would just go youtube.com and then I would do Outbound Sync, Harris Kenny, look him up. And then I see that there was literally a podcast that he was on that went live 6 hours ago. So that's probably what I'd probably look through that podcast. And so essentially what I do is I would just go through the podcast and figure out how I can do that to personalize. And then let's say we are reaching out to him. I would say something along the lines of, hey, first name, or hey, Harris, just saw you on the, and then what is it called? It's called the Understory podcast. Just saw you on the Understory podcast with, and then let's see who these guys are. It's Alex and Ali, with Alex and Ali. So thought I'd reach out. And then you enter your pitch after a personalized line. So it would be something like, I put together a list of 1,000, and then you would figure out who like their ICP is. Lives 1,000 ICP, who would definitely be great fits for Outbound Sync. Mind if I send it your way? Question. Totally free, of course. And now what I would do is I would find Harris on Twitter, copy this message, paste it into the Twitter inbox, and then shoot it over his way. But I know how tiring it can be to personalize thousands of these messages every single day, but that's really what you need to do if you want to succeed. Now I'm going to show you how to automate this whole thing to send highly personalized messages at scale with literally just a 5-minute setup. So first thing you want to do if you want to automate your Twitter outreach is you want to hit the first link down below in the description to get access to Drippy AI. You'll get access to everything for completely free. There's a 7-day free trial so you can get going and get this all set up again for free. So you're going to start your free trial. I'm just going to sign in. And what's really nice about Drippy is you can not only scrape leads, but then you can also send highly personalized messages. So we're just going to go ahead and hit leads on the left-hand side of our screen. We're going to do new lead source, lead scraper. And now all we have to do is figure out who your target audience follows on Twitter. Again, just where do they hang out regularly on Twitter? If we're reaching out to SaaS founders, I would open up twitter.com or x.com. And then I would just look at someone like maybe Dan Martell, right? That is followed by a bunch of SaaS founders because he literally runs a program that helps SaaS founders scale, right? Obviously not, this isn't sponsored or anything, but I would just take him, paste him in here. This would load. Then I would add all his followers and everyone that he follows. I would add that source. And then maybe I would add someone like SaaS. There we go. Like Jason Lemkin right here, SaaStr AI. We would take his link, we would add another source, we would paste him in here. And now instead of finding leads manually, we can just literally, like it was that easy to find 315 potential leads. Not only that, but now we're gonna start adding filters. So let's say that we only want to reach out to people that have more than 1,000 followers that follow one of these guys and has the word founder in their bio. Right? So now this list has gone down from like, what was it? Like 300,000 all the way down to 150,000 people. And now if you wanted to make this list even smaller, you could say, okay, instead of just messaging people that have more than 1,000 followers, or it went down to 34,000, it's probably going to keep going down. You can increase the number of followers and that's going to make your lead list a lot higher quality. But obviously the list is gonna keep getting smaller and smaller. So you can go ahead and play around with all these filters, but Drippy makes it super easy. Now we're just gonna give this a name. We're gonna hit save. And now what we can do is we can just hit this notification to start a new cold DM automation with the lead list that we just created. Automation type, we're gonna select cold DM 2.0 so that we can reach out to all these guys. Lead source is the demo one that we just created. Now we're gonna select script personalizer. Essentially what that means is Drippy will be able to personalize your script with AI, essentially just enhancing it, right? Now, for context, you typically just want to give the AI a little bit of context about what it is that you do so that it can create the best personalization possible. And now for a script, this is essentially the script that I just put together over here. Feel free to copy paste it. If you need help with scripts, you can just go into the Learning Center and Drippy has a bunch of different templates that you can use. And so this works really well because you can use the AI to personalize. So this message is, hey, hello, hi, first name. Again, uses AI to figure out what the first name is. And then we're saying, hey, put together a list of 1,000. And then instead of us going into LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube to figure out who their ICP is, we're just leveraging AI to do this. So we're essentially just using AI to figure out who their ICP is, and then we're name dropping the ICP. And then we are, again, using AI to figure out what product or service our prospect sells. So we're saying, so if we go back to our message, it's, hey, I put together a list of 1,000 of your ICP, right? And we're using AI to figure out who their ICP is. Who definitely, instead of saying who definitely be great fits for company name, we're saying who might be interested in, and then we're describing what their company does, right? So let's just say that this was like a video production agency. So we'd say like, hey, who might be interested in getting their videos edited by you, which is insane, right? No one's really doing this on Twitter. And so if you're able to put together these scripts and these prompts correctly, you will be making a ton of money and booking a ton of meetings. Now for settings, this is typically what I like. You just want to make sure that you give the AI all websites to look at whenever you are having it personalized, and then all recent tweets as well. Now we're going to hit next. You can add a message variance in here so you can A/B test. We're going to hit next. Now for follow-ups, I typically just recommend adding one follow-up 1 day later. Make it super curiosity-based, short, sweet, to the point. That typically works best. Now what's really nice about Twitter, like I said earlier, was that you can send up to 500 messages per day per account. So you can add a bunch of accounts and send thousands of messages very, very easily. Now, for advanced settings, I will skip previously contacted, meaning you're not going to hit anyone twice. Do not contact list turned on. Prevent cross-account duplicates turned on. I typically will only reach out to people in the United States. And then for activity check, you want to have this be relatively low, so you're only reaching out to people that are active, and this will very, very significantly increase your reply rates. So just imagine that, like if you were doing cold email, if you could only reach out to people that actually open messages, right? That's essentially what this setting right here is. We're hitting next. Now we're just gonna give our automation a name. We're gonna call this demo YouTube. I'm gonna select my personal account to send. You hit create, and now you're sending highly personalized messages at mass scale with literally, like I said, a 5-minute setup. And that is the new way of doing cold outreach that business owners are using to book hundreds of meetings every single month. And if you want to use Drippy to send out AI-powered, highly personalized messages, hit the first link down below in the description to start your 7-day free trial and get this all set up for completely free. And if you want to learn more about Twitter marketing, I made this full tutorial on Twitter DMs specifically. So if you're interested, make sure to hit that video and watch that. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.